Q, and welcome to our continuation of the 2071 NBA Draft here in PlayerGM. Definitely an interesting one so far, and I definitely think this is quite interesting to say the least, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here joined, as always, by my trusty friend Hines and our draft analyst in Sam. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
How about you, Sam?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm ready to get some of these picks out the way. I'm ready. But first of all, first and foremost, here, okay, as we can all see, there is that little bit that is shown. Here's a overview of the first six picks. Tyson Oaks, the small forward point guard, he went first overall to the Pittsburgh Predators. Orlando picked up Peyton Westbrook from Brisbane. Jashawn Handel, with that whole situation that happened with the third overall pick, we all were quite surprised, didn't know what was going on there. But in the end, when the dust settled, Trojans got Jashawn Handel from Northwestern. DeMarcus King and Carl King, the brothers, went back to back. And then Kansas boys with Carl King and Malcolm Walker rounded out the top six. After that, here are the rest of the top 10. Dario Kovacic III from Ole Miss went to the Bullets as they had back-to-back picks. Takashi Tron from North Carolina, he went to Washington. He's now a part of the Wizards organization and should definitely cause some nice aspects for them. Handy Corona, one of the best players at an international level outside of world. He's definitely looking if he can apply his trade properly for the Orlando Magic, forming a duo with Peyton Westbrook. And rounding out the top 10, it was Stephen Walker. It says Michigan State. I meant to put USC. My bad right there. Definitely a mistake there. What are you guys' thoughts on this?
I think it was a good first night. Unlike last year, like last year we had some picks that at the times obviously Dane Griffin proved us wrong and showed that he was a good pick, but some of the picks in the top 10 last year were questionable to us, and I think last night we gave a lot of. I don't even know if we got to any B plus ratings on the picks.
I think the
I
lowest we
think
went was
it
B.
mostly, yeah, that I think we mostly went other than some picks like DeMarcus King, maybe a little bit early, Takashi Train maybe a little bit late, but I think it mostly went according to how we thought it was going to be.
What do you think, Hines?
Yeah, it's definitely a better overall top 10 this year than it was this time last year. Even though there were, maybe like little surprises of where people went, I think this top 10 was probably the like best 10 of the draft. And so all these teams did very well drafting so far. So it'll be interesting to see if if these next couple of picks will continue this trend or we'll start seeing people go off the board that we don't expect to go this early or people falling, things like that.
All right, with that, I want to ask you guys, our special draft analyst, ladies and gentlemen, who do you guys think is going to be, first of all, the first man off the board tonight, and secondly, who do you think is going to be our largest faller?
I think that some people we could see picked early here could be any of the players that Player GM and ESPN mentioned. I think Tyus Walker, uh, Jerry Gafford, um, Ben's Gutierrez, really any of these guys could be picked here. I think for the Pelicans, they can really just I say this a lot, but I think the Pelicans can just add talent anywhere. I don't think they necessarily have a position of need. I think getting somebody a little bit bigger would be good for them, maybe a power forward or a center. But yeah, I think a pick I could see here would be Jerry Gafford or Tyus Walker.
What about you, Heinz?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Tyus Walker for pick 11 at least. I think he's the most ready for the team overall. They do need size, as Sam was pointing out. I think Tyus provides that nice blend of versatility. He can play power forward or center. And then we all know, followed by, or obviously we know Tyus Walker, OC, Jerry Gafford, Ben Gutierrez, some other players. Lingus, also out of the new European League, like Handy Corona came out. I was curious to see where Handy would fall, if he'd be, a big faller. He ended up, going where I think was appropriate within the top 10. We'll see if a similar trend will happen here with him, with Lingus, that is.
All right, well, I'm definitely stoked to see how these next couple picks unfold as we go right into the Pelicans draft selection. With the 11th pick of the 2071 NBA Draft, the New Orleans Pelicans select Tyus Walker, power forward slash center from the University of Florida. Ladies and gentlemen, I think this is a very good pick. I feel like it could have been. It's just the best guy on the board in my opinion. But before we get into our personal opinions, Sam, run us through this young man's physicals.
Tyus Walker is 7'3", 263. He's a power forward slash center scoring machine. He is from Florida, and he's a really good player. Like I said a couple minutes ago, I do know all the picks in this draft, so it was hard not to give away. But I do think that Tyus Walker was definitely the best pick here. I don't know exactly what the Pelicans are going to do, but they still have C.J. Walker. They still have Lockman. I believe they still have Dwight Westbrook. And I think that pairing Walker with Westbrook and then also having the talent around that, and then I believe they have Gucci Guo or whatever his name is. And right now you're looking. I mean that's a intimidating five. There's really no weakness in that starting five. And if you build a bench, then I mean I think you're looking at a team that could make a surprise run for this next year, and then in the future be a playoff team for a long time.
Heinz, your thoughts on the selection by the Pelicans? You think they went the right direction?
Yeah, this is definitely the perfect move for the Pelicans. Like Sam was alluding to, they do already have obviously C.J. Walker Jr., Dwight Westbrook, Tony Lockman, Gucci Gao the third, all of which are still under contract going into next season. I don't think they have any free agents actually that they need to worry about, but their weak link of the team was definitely that power forward position, so they addressed that here. Tyus Walker is a very, very talented player. I've seen him firsthand at the University of Florida. His draft stock fell a little bit within the Reese era of NCAA. But he's still a very, very talented player. Everyone, he was number 6. He was the number 6 recruit of his class coming out of high school into NCAA. So we all know that he's stayed talented. He's been consistent throughout his career, and I think he'll bring very, very, very needed change to the Pelicans. They've been very much a middle of the pack team out west. I think this pick can try and help boost them into the playoff contention.
I really feel like with the way that the West is structured, the fact that it isn't as strong as in past years, the Pelicans really need to capitalize with their young core. As Heinz said, Tyus Walker, very good fit for them. It's a position of need. And I honestly think this is a very good move for the Pelicans front office. I think this might be a solid pick for them, especially outside of the top 10. They get a talented guy who can play power forward or center. And personally, I think this can go any way. Now we head on to the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves have their first pick under new management with Funky and Reese or Race or however people want to pronounce it. So before we go into the Timberwolves pick, Sam, tell us, what are your thoughts on these two being nominated as the new GM?
Reese and Fonky, I don't know how you want to pronounce it. I'll call him Magic Bird. Magic Bird is on the Nets. I'm a big fan of him, and I think he deserves another shot at being an owner. The last time he was an owner was like 2 real life years ago. I think he definitely deserved another chance. And Reese, even though we've had our disagreements, Rice, whatever, even though we've had our disagreements, I think he did a decent job with the NCAA, and I think he deserves a shot. He's shown that he can be very active, and I think, I think he'll be a good pick as the owner.
What about you, Mr. Hines? Who do you think, as we all know, based off of PlayerGM, there always ends up being one of them who ends up being more dominant than the other and ends up kicking the other one out, so to say, of that quote-unquote co-GM role. Who do you think is going to be the one that becomes that entity?
Based on everything I've seen so far, I mean, Fonke's been in the league a little bit long. Well, not a little bit longer. He's been in the league longer. He has that ownership experience. Uh, I mean, Reese has been very active recently. He is very active. They're both really active, which is great. Because obviously, when owners get replaced, it's usually due to inactivity. We see here, like we might see in the future, for another team out west that I won't name the name of. But I do think that if one of the two were to take that role, it would probably be Fonke.
Interesting. I like the hires. For a variety of reasons, I really like the hires. And for the main reason why, it's just that. They're both active. They've both shown that they care about the league. In one sense, it's quite frustrating seeing the way that Reese was treated. Of course, on one hand, NCAA was an issue for him. I'm not going to say it wasn't. He did his best and everything, but sadly, it just wasn't what the people deserved. It felt like he might have gotten a bit too much stick for it. But of course, who knows? Having him see him in a new ownership role, in a new ownership opportunity, I actually think we might be able to see another side of Reese. Meanwhile, Fonke, he's definitely been very talented. He's been one of the better coaches in almost every league, and now he finally gets his shot in the NBA. And I'm quite stoked to see how all of that turns out. But with that, now that we're done talking about the owners, let's talk about who they pick in their first shot as Timberwolves ownership. With the 12th pick in the 2071 NBA Draft, the Minnesota Timberwolves select Jerry Gafford, the forward out of Oklahoma. Sam, run us through this young man's physicals.
So, Jerry Gafford is a 7'3", 200-pound power forward / small forward. He is an offensive threat from Oklahoma. I mentioned him as one of the potential options for the Pelicans, and I do like this pick for the Timberwolves. Obviously, you have the former NCAA owner, so he knows quite a bit about these prospects going into the draft. And I mean, I think this is a solid pick. You might see them trade Worldwide West. I'm not really sure about what the direction of this team is yet. He did, as Tran mentioned in the chat, only have 2 rebounds per game, which for a 7'3" power forward is very, very concerning. But hopefully the Timberwolves can give him some drills to build up that strength and help him box out, and just generally get him to be stronger. But overall, I think you run him at small forward because he can't really rebound. But I do think it's a nice pick.
What about you, Hines? Do you think the Timberwolves here, do you think they got a hit or you think they got a miss here in their first pick under management?
I'm going to go with a hit. Main reason being they definitely did not need to draft a guard here, so they went with the right direction of power forward / small forward. Like we already implied, they have Worldwide West. We don't know, obviously, the direction they're going in, whether they trade him or not. But even if they do trade him, they do already have Elijah Russ and Steph Stephenson Jr. So they're definitely full on guards at this point. They needed to draft a bigger player. That rebounding is an issue, but I'm assuming it'll be addressed, through offseason workouts. But this was definitely the pick right here.
I think this is a very solid pick for the Timberwolves as well. I really feel like they went in a solid direction and they definitely nailed it in one sense or another. I feel like they have a lot of talent in the backcourt. I think now is finally time to show what their front court could do, especially with how weak, so to say, the Western Conference is. With that, we move on to the following draft selection. With the 13th pick in the 2071 NBA Draft, the Kansas City Knights select LeBron Bird, point forward out of CSKA Moscow. in the new European League. Sam, run us through this young man's physicals, the man related to someone you're quite fond with in Magic Bird.
LeBron Bird is a 6'10", 245 facilitating finisher. He is a small forward / point guard from CSKA Moscow. So I am a big fan of Magic Bird, as everybody knows. I am not the biggest fan of this pick. I think LeBron Bird has a lot of talent. I just think this is a reach. I think this is a place where, as Kansas City is known to do, trading assets for more assets. And I think they could have traded down and gotten LeBron Bird somewhere around 18, 19, something like that. I just really think this pick is a little bit of a reach, even though LeBron has a lot of talent. I just think this is a little bit early to be taking him. So if I had to grade this, I'd give it a C. But we have to keep in mind that the Knights have been very successful in the draft in recent years, getting Day and Griffin. So I would like to give Obiagu a little bit of credit and say that maybe he sees something that I don't.
Hines, do you think LeBron Bird, who's one of the best players in NEL, do you think he's going to live up to Magic Bird's standings, or is he going to be another one of his family members that just flop in the pros?
Well, I definitely don't think it's going to reach Magic Bird standings, but I mean, like Sam was alluding to, the Knights draft stock, like their draft rankings of players actually tend to be pretty good. But they are a very, very weird team in that they trade. You'll see at least 5 nice trades a season, so you never know who they'll really have when it comes time, like for the season opener. I do think that this was a little bit of a reach. If they were going to go in the small forward direction, I personally would have went with Andrew Westbrook out of USC. But I mean, we all know that Handy Corona is talented. Play in the same league, same type of competition. Maybe they saw something in their scouting overseas that made them think like, yeah, we can go ahead and take him here rather than not try and risk it. But they definitely could have traded back for him. I wouldn't have picked him this early, but I do think he has a high enough potential, but I don't think he's going to reach Magic Bird levels.
I like LeBron Bird. I really do. Was it a reach? Possibly could be considered one, but LeBron Bird, he showed in NEL that he was talented. Hell, he even put up a fight against Handy Corona from time to time, and Lingus Saltamalkia III, who's yet to be selected as well. I think that's very interesting. I really feel like LeBron Bird might be the least talked about of those three, but based off his family history and how he's played, I really feel like he could definitely surprise a couple people. If the Knights hit this one, you could call him one of the better drafters. Let's just see if not only this draft pick turns out well, but it also leads to them winning on the court. With that being said, we head into the 14th pick. With the 14th pick of the 2071 NBA Draft, the Baltimore Bullets select Yaroslav Shved Jr., guard out of Athens from World League. Sam, run us through this young man's physicals and give us your thoughts.
Yaroslav Shved Jr. is a 6'7", 215 scoring machine. He's a shooting guard / point guard from the Athens Gladiators in the World League. Shved, I'm interested in this pick is what I'll say. The Bullets have cycled through a bunch of players. They recently traded some of the players they drafted last year, like Lathan Westbrook and Marcus Frazier, and it seems like this is a cycle that they cycle through guards a lot, and hopefully Yaroslav Shved Jr. is the end to that. I think they saw how World Wide West and Augustus Phillips had really solid years last year for their teams as guards coming from the World League, and I think their GM saw something in Shved. I don't necessarily agree with the pick, but I do think that the Bullets are in good hands. Along with their first 2 picks, I mean, it can't really hurt when you have so many picks in a draft. At least one of their players will pan out. Maybe Shved is that guy. Maybe it's the first 2. Maybe it's just one of them. But as an overall grade, I'll give this a B+.
Now, before we ask Hines for his opinion and thoughts, Lathan Westbrook was not included in the Bullets Storm deal. Just wanted to put that out there. couple BBN fans were worried that Lathan was shipped, but he still remains a part of the Baltimore Bullets. Hines, what is your thought on the Bullets not yet having a listed point guard?
Yeah, it definitely not adds to confusion, but fan speculation as to what exactly, not necessarily what the front office is doing, but like what exactly they can expect come the season opener. It's not very clear yet. Obviously, there's still free agency that we have to go through, so who knows what will happen there. But this is a good pick. They're definitely banking on the success we saw last year from World Guards and Augustus Phillips Worldwide West. Um, I don't think this was a reach at all. I think this was a solid place for him to be taken, like within this like group of six picks. So they went ahead and pulled the trigger. They already had the draft picks earlier in this draft. So right now they're just addressing little tiny needs. They've already addressed, what they came in for, and now they're just getting the best that they feel that they can receive. So I think this is a great pick.
So, the reasoning that I put behind this, with the connections that I have to the Baltimore Bullets front office, I really feel like it was interesting in the sense that Yaroslav Shved, he's a scoring guard. He scores the ball. And with the way that the Bullets have been over the past couple seasons, they really needed that score. The additions of Malcolm Walker in this coming draft, based off of his passing production in college, and the fact that they have Josick Carlton, who's one of the better distributors in the league, they really needed to strengthen the scoring. I saw the way that Yaroslav Shved worked in the front office, and definitely he's done well. He did well in World. I really hope he can translate his game to the pros for my beloved Baltimore Bullets. And that we advance to the Detroit Pistons pick at 15. With the 15th pick in the 2071 NBA Draft, the Detroit Pistons select Victor Guerrero, the center out of University of Michigan. I mean, I got some personal opinions about this young man, but before we get into my thoughts and Heinz's thoughts, Sam, run us through this young man's physicals.
Victor Guerrero. He is 7 foot, 284. He's a two-way, three-level scorer. He is a center / power forward from Michigan. So by pure talent, I'm not a big fan of this pick. There are definitely better players available, but based on need, I do really like this pick. This definitely is the best center available, and as we all know, to pair with JP3, Zion Harden, and I think AV Quintero is still there. I'm not positive. Victor Guerrero makes sense. They needed a center or a power forward, somebody to play alongside those guards. I don't love the fact that he's only 7 foot. Maybe he plays power forward and you try to sign a center, but based on fit, this is definitely the best player available here.
What are your thoughts on Victor Guerrero heading to the Pistons? He remains in the state of Michigan.
I think it's a great move by the Pistons organization. They absolutely need to find a replacement at big man after losing Devontae Dream after their championship season, because the player that they have now playing center, Cecil Sharp, did not cut it whatsoever at center. He only averaged 13 points. He did average at least 11 rebounds, so that's credit to him. But they definitely need to find something. They definitely needed to find an upgrade there. I think Victor Guerrero is at least an upgrade from Cecil Sharp. They would have, hoped to get a higher overall, or like a taller player at least. But this was the right move. This is the right direction for them as an organization, and it will at least improve them going into next season.
I like this selection a lot. And well made, obviously, but also being one of the first people I recruited when I owned Michigan. I left him in good hands with Handy. He had a very good season. And that's definitely an interesting one. Moving on to the following selection in the draft. We'll see how it all turns out. Who do the Hornets select? With the 16th pick in the 2071 NBA Draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Handy Yeehaw, the point guard and reigning MVP of the Alabama High School League, Calhoun Tigers. Sam, run us through this young man's physicals, being the only high school prospect in the draft.
This is my least favorite pick so far for sure. Handy is 6'9", 205, all around two-way. He's a point guard from the Calhoun Tigers. Technically, this man is 15 years old. He is definitely not the best player available. He's not even arguably a top 5 point guard currently available. I'm seeing some discussions in the chat that he made this pick because he didn't know who would be available, and this is the reason you send in lists of the order of who you want to take, which is a pretty simple thing to do, not very hard to do. Most owners seem to be pretty good at doing that without complaining. And because of it, the Hornets get stuck with Andy Yeehaw. Andy Yeehaw he was really good in AHS. He won MVP over my player, Coronavirus. I still think Corona should have won. But Handy's not a bad player. He just would have been better to be taken at around like 20, 25 instead of 16.
Well, this is definitely an interesting pick. Definitely one that the Hornets made based off of the ties that Handy Yeehaw has to the front office. Hines, what are your thoughts on this ridiculously young man going to the Hornets?
I definitely think that this is the reach of the draft. Maybe, well, definitely up to this point, maybe for the entire draft. You definitely could have gotten him much later in this first round. I mean, I understand of them thinking that maybe better players would be picked, but there's no sense in not at least trying or asking if you could pick them or if they are available at that one part. They at least went with a position of need, which I can commend them for. Homeboy, his primary position is small forward in the game, actually. So they are lacking a guard to pair him with. Maybe Handy Yeehaw will be able to step right in out of high school and he'll, jump right into the NBA. But I think they should have went with a little bit more of an experienced player here. He is young, and for that reason alone, I think he should have went a little bit later in the draft.
This is really an interesting draft selection. I really felt like it was interesting. Handy Yeehaw definitely has potential to be one of the better people in this class, but he's so young. This definitely could be considered a really high reach. And with that, we move on to our following draft selection. With the 17th pick in the 2071 NBA Draft, the Sacramento Kings select Benz Gutierrez, the combo guard out of Xavier University in T2. This is definitely a really good pick. Amazing size for this man. But before I get into my thoughts and everything, Sam, run us through this young man's physicals.
So Benz Gutierrez, who we've had some conversations about in the chat, is 6'6", 180. He's an all-around two-way point guard / shooting guard from Xavier. This is definitely the best available player right here. And I would like to say that the Kings owner, what he said was, I bet he's not available, but I'll put him on my board anyway. Benz Gutierrez is the first person on my board. And since he sent a comprehensive board, he gets Benz Gutierrez to pair along with Kyrie Irving III and Deion Ashcroft. I mean, I think this is a really good pick. This is probably the best pick. Obviously, you knew where Tyson Oaks and Peyton Westbrook were going to go. But this is the best pick. This is the biggest steal of the draft so far for sure.
Hans, your thoughts on this young T2 prospect going to the Sacramento Kings? Were you expecting him to go earlier?
Yeah, I definitely expect him to go earlier, and especially him being available for the Hornets. That is absolutely who they should have chosen. I mean, they've explained their reasoning as to why they didn't try and pick him. But as Sam was alluding to, you give the list for a reason. Even if you don't think that person is available, the fact that they might be available has the potential to benefit you, and it benefited the Kings this time. Benz will pair very nicely with Kyrie Irving III. They might be able to move on with Jax Miles or have him in like a 6-man type role. I mean, he's owned by an inactive person, I believe, so there's no worry about him being upset and leaving. Now they have two talented guards pairing along with I believe they have a draft pick earlier, but at least pairing along with the new talent they're bringing in, it gives them a very, very nice boost in the Western Conference.
Definitely an interesting point of view there. I really like this pick for Ben Gutierrez. Very talented combo guard. The Kings really needed an upgrade there, don't you think? They really had. They decided this offseason, you know what? We're gonna replace a lot of pieces. We're gonna see how much we can move, how much we can go, and how well we can end up doing. And while the Kings definitely are taking that risk, this might be definitely the way to go. We move on to the 18th draft selection of the night. With the 18th pick of the 2071 NBA Draft, the Denver Nuggets select Andrew Westbrook, small forward out of the University of Southern California. Sam, run us through this young man's physicals.
Andrew Westbrook is a 6'7", 248 two-way slasher. He is a small forward, pure small forward from USC. And this pick is like the most not good, not bad, just like kind of expected pick that you could get. Andrew is 6'7", 248, as I already said, and he's a slasher. I mean, he's kind of short, but he is a big body. He's gonna take it into the paint and he's gonna dunk all over you. He can also play some defense, which is nice. I don't know exactly what the plan is for the Nuggets. Maybe he'll start. I think he would be a good sixth man, a slashing, energizing type of player. Um, yeah, this is really a perfect pick for them. The Nuggets always seem to do well. They don't get anybody elite except for Uzi Carlton, but they don't make any bad picks either.
Definitely an interesting point of view on that one. I really like Andrew Westbrook. Very good small forward. Was this the move? I don't know. In reality, I don't know what the Denver Nuggets front office is doing. I'm gonna be dead honest. I really don't understand. Sometimes what Fitz is doing in that front office. Other times, some of the moves he seems like absolute genius. Other times, seeing the guys that he has on his team, you get kind of confused. But either way, Andrew Westbrook, solid draft selection here for Denver. What are your thoughts on it, Mr. Hines?
I personally think that it was a good pick. I think if they do choose to use him as a starter, he'll replace their lowest scoring of the starting five, which is Justice Tran Jr. I believe is Justice Tran Jr. If not, they have a solid, reliable bench piece. I think everyone in this draft that's coming out of USC are going to be very solid players, whether they're as a bench role or in a starting role. As Sam was saying, this was like this pick made a lot of sense. This is exactly where you expected him to be around. So while their front office we don't always necessarily know what they're doing. I think that they knew what they were doing here. They made a good, responsible pick. They didn't reach on anybody, at least, and for that, I commend them.
Definitely an interesting point of view there. I definitely think Nuggets might have made a reach, so to say. Who knows? But definitely Andrew Westbrook is a very talented guy. I think the only questionable thing I think we can all say is the team fit. We move on to the 19th draft selection of this draft. With the 19th pick of the 2071 NBA Draft. I don't know who has the pick. Wait, hold up. Yeah, there we go. I'm stupid.
Timberwolves.
Blank. Thank you so much. I blank. With the 19th pick of the 2071 NBA Draft, the Minnesota Timberwolves select Derek Walker, the combo forward out of Georgia. Despite my blunder, I apologize right there for you guys watching at home. But Sam, run us through this young man's physicals.
Derek Walker is a 6'10", 256 scoring machine, power forward / small forward from Georgia. Derek Walker is an interesting player. The Timberwolves, as I already stated, have Reese as their owner, and meaning he knows very personally all of these prospects. They were in his league, meaning I trust him to make the right picks. Derek Walker, I mean, it is a little bit confusing when you look at their picks. You're not exactly sure the direction they're going in. Um, it's interesting because you wait to see what moves, and when there's a new GM, you always wait to see the new moves, the direction that the GM and the owner decide to go. And I think you can't exactly tell. I think they're just trying to add talent. Um, I don't know. I think this is a solid pick. I'd give it like B plus.
Heinz, your thoughts on this? Do you think the Timberwolves are making the right move going back-to-back picks in the front court?
I think it's the right move because it gives them flexibility if they're looking to trade or restructure their team overall. In this case, they can trade either of their two latest picks and still have somebody in that position to go with moving forward if they want to trade it for not necessarily a player, but if they try to trade it for a future pick or something like that. So it gives them flexibility there. And also, we all know Derek Walker is very talented. Their scouting department obviously had a good look at this entire class coming in from college. Um, so I do believe that he will provide some value for the team. Not sure, obviously, how minutes will be allotted because new owners, we can expect some type of shakeup coming. I think this is a good pick to give them flexibility for different opportunities moving forward.
Definitely a good selection there for the Minnesota Timberwolves. They have some talent here. They definitely have something interesting going on. And well, they're having an interesting point of view there. I don't know what to say as a whole. Timberwolves very solid there. Now the Celtics are picking at 20. Who will they take? With the 20th pick in the 2071 NBA Draft, the Boston Celtics select Trippy Westbrook, combo forward out of Duke. Definitely a very talented guy here. The Westbrook family keeps on growing in the NBA. Sam, run us through this young man's physicals.
All right, I have to pull them up. He is a little bit further down. Okay, Trippy Westbrook is a 7'1", 230-pound, two-way three-level scorer. He's a small forward slash power forward from Duke. So this pick, I'm not sure exactly what's going on. This pick Trippy has been in trade discussions, I believe. I'm not positive about that. But Trippy Westbrook for now seems like a good pick. Celtics had a good year last year. We have the very, very famous post from PlayerGM, are the Celtics legit? It seems that they were not, in fact, legit. But they had an interesting year. Trippy Westbrook, I mean, he should be a starter for them if they keep him. I don't know. I think this is a pretty interesting pick. I'd give it like a B plus, A minus. I think he's a solid pick. He went to a good school. He put up good stats, and I think he could be a good player for the Celtics.
Definitely an interesting selection there. I really rate Trippy. I really feel like he has talent at the small forward position, and that the talent that he possesses is very good. He's a very talented young man. What are your thoughts, Heinz?
I think this is a great pick for Boston, especially having a pick this late in the draft. It addressed a little bit of a size issue. Not necessarily that they had a size issue, but they now can bounce the floor a little bit more. They were starting two people whose primary position was center, and they can maybe move Trippy in for their weaker center, and then have a more balanced, unique lineup to pair with, people like UU and Mountain Dew Jr., who are still very, very, very good for them as an organization. Uh, and then he's coming from Duke University. They're known to produce talent, maybe not a high level talent that they would have in the past, but that program there is very good. They produce good players. Obviously, they produce first round talent, as we see right here. I think this was a great pick for them.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this pick. I really like it a lot. Definitely a lot of talent stemming from it. And now we move on to the next pick. We're going to try to get through these next ones quite quickly due to the fact that, well, We're now into the latter stages of the draft. Keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, the second round of the draft will be conducted by LJ, and that's definitely going to be an interesting one to see who falls out of the first round and slips right into the second one. Also, along that line, a lot of people talking about the whole aspect of trading picks following the top 10. Let us know what you guys think we should do, whether it should be completely live or should we keep it the way it is. I think if you guys want to go that way, well, going live is definitely one way to look at it, but I personally think the current format has been the most successful one in recent years. Moving on to the 21st
I agree.
pick. With the 21st pick in the 2071 NBA Draft, the Baltimore Bullets select Boris Lou Jr., the center point guard out of Cairns Tigers in NBL. This is definitely an interesting pick by the Bullets, as they still haven't drafted a true point guard, or at least a listed point guard, as a primary position. But before we go into that, Sam, run us through this young man's physicals.
Boris Lou Jr., 7'5", 275, all-around threat, center/point guard from the, I don't know how to pronounce it, team in, you said NBL?
NBL, in Australia.
NBL, Australia. Boris Lou Jr., you know who I'm going to bring up? I do it every time there's a point guard above 7 foot. JP3. Boris Lou Jr. can play point guard. A 7'5" point guard hopefully would be able to slow down a guy like JP3 and some of these taller point guards. Who knows what the Bullets are going to do with him? It seems like he would be like a hybrid role off the bench, just kind of playing like the Magic Bird type role of really anywhere, center, point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, wherever. He might start, who knows, but they have added 3 players and they already had some talent on their team. It just seems like this is a good pick. It's high upside. You can't really go wrong with this pick. He's either going to be like a glitchy type player or he's just going to be a decent center. I know for a fact that a lot of people had him on their draft boards and were interested in taking him. And the Bullets get lucky to be ahead of all of them and get him here.
Well, one thing I want to point out as well is we all got it wrong with the pronunciation of the team name. Our fellow Australian Max Ixer is pronounced the Cairns Tigers. I don't know where they get that pronunciation from, but you know, that's definitely okay. It's all right. Heinz, what's your thoughts on the Bullets drafting such a hybrid player?
Well, first of all, as Max I was saying, I love the silent R in that. I love how it makes absolutely no sense. That's what you have to love foreign accents. But this is a great pick for Baltimore. Their entire team is constructed of like what I would like to call plug and play players. They can choose anyone on their roster and be like, okay, hey, you go play point guard now. You know, you go play small forward, center. They can all flip through and play whatever is needed for the team. That is really, really good for any team to have. And Baltimore has a roster full of those type of guys. So I love the choice. They might have been able to wait and take him at 24. Who knows? But regardless, obviously, as we've addressed before, at this point, Baltimore has addressed what they really needed or what they felt like they needed. Now they're just going after wants. And this was not a bad thing at all to want a potentially glitchy player that can play anywhere on the court that will pair well with the team currently constructed. I really like this pick.
Definitely an interesting selection by the Baltimore Bullets for an office, as they definitely see a lot of upside in this man. We move on to the 22nd pick in the draft. With the 22nd pick in the 2071 NBA Draft, the San Francisco Warriors select Lingus Saltamalkia III, point guard out of Olympiacos. Definitely an interesting pick. Lingus finally stops falling, and that's definitely one way to look at it. What are your thoughts on this selection, Sam?
Lingus is 6'2". He's an offensive threat, point guard, gross. I think this is a terrible pick. No, I'm just kidding. But This is a steal here. Tran will be spamming the chat saying it's a steal. He'll be posting about it and posting on his story. This is the biggest steal before he trades it next week. But Lingus he's a really good player. This is a good pick for Tran. He could be their backup point guard, shooting guard type of deal. Provide some scoring off the bench. Perhaps be sixth man of the year in the future. Um, yeah, this is a steal. I'd give this pick an A.
Heinz, what do you think about Lingus Saltamalkia finally making the jump to the pros as LS3 heads to the Warriors, a team with a lot of guard activity already?
Yeah, definitely a lot of guard activity happening in San Francisco. And for that, I do not fully understand this pick, except for the fact of, just saying that you got to steal in the draft. But realistically, they do not need him. They drafted a player in Dame King last year, drafted Stephen Walker earlier in this draft at pick 10. So they have their, 1-2 combo already right there. So the best he can realistically play is six man. I'm not sure if that's a role he's comfortable playing. Maybe he'll be used as trade bait because, like we said, this is a steal. This is a great pick for the place where it is, but it's not necessarily at all what San Francisco needed. So great pick, not the best situation for him as a player.
I personally really like this pick. Is it the best fit? Who knows? But getting a pick this late in the draft and the fact that Lingus Saltamalkia isn't that active in a whole sense, at least based off of what I know. Well, Trent definitely, I feel like, made a solid selection here. Definitely considered a steal. His size and his defensive awareness and prowess is going to be a huge question mark for this young man. But if we're going to look at offensive output coming off the bench, I think this might be a very good role. Moving on to the 23rd pick by the Pittsburgh Predators. With the 23rd pick of the 2071 NBA Draft, the Pittsburgh Predators select Shin Duncombe, the point guard out of Georgetown. Ooh. A lot of people in the crowd, they've definitely been waiting. They're like, when is Shin going to be drafted? When is Shin going to be drafted? When is he going to be drafted? And now, finally, Shin Duncombe is headed to the NBA, and he's headed to Pittsburgh. Sam, run us through this young man's physicals.
Shin Duncombe is a 6'6", 194 two-way slashing playmaker, point guard from Georgetown. Shin has been falling a little bit. This isn't a steal necessarily, but this definitely is a pretty good pick. We're going to hear from Heinz in a couple seconds on whether Shin will be starting. It seems unlikely that he would start, as he's a point guard, and they just drafted Tyson Oaks, who's going to be their point guard. Looks like Shin could be going for sixth man of the year, similar to Lingus Saltalamacchia.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I think this is a steal. I think this is a pretty good pick. What are your thoughts?
I definitely think this is a very solid draft selection. I really feel like this is a good pick, We're getting later in the draft. There's a couple of people that are sliding, a couple of people that are not. Are they this? Are they that? Who knows? But definitely, Pittsburgh got himself a very good player here. Shin Duncombe has been rising on draft boards. Originally, he was a no-name, projected probably second rounder, undrafted. Now he goes in the first round, and his last year in college definitely showed that off. Shin Duncombe, I applaud them for this pick. Heinz, what do you think the plans are in Pittsburgh for this young man, based off of your connections to the front office?
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh is mainly trying to address the need to replace bench point guard, which is likely what he'll be, at least starting off in Pittsburgh. During the little tanking session that the franchise went through at the end of the season, we saw a player be plugged into the starting role by the name of Little Pickle, who will now test free agency after having a very, very impressive mini season, actually, where he averaged about 21 points initially coming off the bench and then being plugged in as a starter. So that increase saw him like the need to improve his stock. Now he'll be able to play elsewhere. And so now Pittsburgh is taking the chance on Duncan, who also started off like not really being known, but was able to shoot up the draft boards to place that lost talent that they're having lost via Pickle with Duncam. A very talented player. I really like this pick.
I think the Pittsburgh Predators definitely made a proper draft selection here, and it looks very talented. And as our good friend C-Rod said in the chat, look at Shin, man. Such an inspiration, ladies and gentlemen. We move on to the 24th draft selection held by the Baltimore Bullets. With the 24th pick of the 2071 NBA Draft, the Baltimore Bullets select... Oh man, there we go. Some technical difficulties there. But the Baltimore Bullets select Dean Bean Jr., the combo guard out of the Bogota Estrellas in the World League. Bullets go back-to-back international players. That's definitely an interesting move by the Baltimore Bullets front office. But before we get into opinions, Sam, run us through this young man's physicals.
Dean Bean Jr. is a 6'7", 220, all-around two-way shooting guard / point guard. I'm going to say pretty much the same thing that I said about Boris. The Bullets always have a lot of picks. They always add a lot of different people. Hopefully Dean Bean Jr. is one of the ones that sticks. It seems likely he would play in some sort of bench role, maybe 7th man, 6th man type of thing, maybe G League, who knows. With the new DeAndre G League, you could send Dean Bean down, potentially grow down there. I like the pick. It's about exactly where he was mocked. In fact, exactly where he was projected to go. Yeah, this is a pretty solid pick. I'd give it a A-.
Heinz, what are your thoughts on this selection right here by the Baltimore Bullets?
I think it's a unique selection. Clearly, the organization loves their international players. I think he's a very talented player. Another player with a secondary guard position or a secondary point guard as their position. So we still really have no idea the true direction of how the lineup is going to take place. But you assume being picked this late, they'll likely expect to be placed under a bench type role. But I think this player does have potential. We definitely could see him get some solid minutes in this Baltimore rotation. And especially for being the 24th pick, this was some really good value to add to the team overall.
Definitely a really interesting point of view there. I like Dean Bean Jr., very talented man, and we'll see how it all turns out for them, ladies and gentlemen. We move on to the 25th pick of the draft. With the 25th pick in the 2071 NBA Draft, the Milwaukee Bucks select Brothers, the point forward out of the University of Florida. Definitely, I misspelled this man's name. I forgot an S after the first Brothers, but a very talented guy. Definitely fell off in college in comparison to his high school play. Will he be able to reach that level? If there's any place that could potentially take him there, it's the Milwaukee Bucks. Sam, run us through this young man's physicals.
Brothers is a 6'10", 225 scoring machine, power forward / point guard out of Florida. And we are starting to see a trend happening of people taking players to fill. I would like to give myself a little bit credit, and to give Magic Bird a little bit of credit to fill that Magic Bird type of role. We've seen how valuable that can be. Magic Bird's played literally every single position for the Nets, and is even willing to take the 6th-man role now. And Brothers, Boris Luke Jr., people like that, they can play really anywhere. And it's really versatile for jump-ins, and if anybody fouls out or even just off the bench, to not have to need like a point guard and a shooting guard, or like a point guard and a small forward. You can just have one guy like Brothers. It's really helpful. Brothers was mocked around here. It's a pretty good pick. I think he could be an important piece off the bench for the Bucks.
Heinz, what are your thoughts on this draft selection by the Milwaukee Bucks?
Yeah, I think this is a great situation for both the player and the team overall. As you were alluding to earlier, a very, very talented high school player that felt a little bit in terms of output and production in college. So a way to work himself back into it is to play for a great organization with a great coach and enterprise, um, where he starts with a bench role, gets his way like worked into a system. Then when is needed, he can be plugged in, play anywhere. Um, this is a really, really great pick. But this was about where he was expected to go. Um, but it benefits both the player and the team as a whole. So I like this pick that much more because of that.
I feel like this is a very good selection. Can play anywhere. Definitely is someone who fits into the Buck system. They definitely love having big guys in that team. They definitely love having things for them and having them all the way around in the globe, in the team, everything. I feel like this is a very good selection. I definitely feel like it can be a very good move for them. Let's move on to the following draft selection. With the 26th pick in the 2071 NBA Draft, the Denver Nuggets select Vivbot 2.0, point guard out of North Carolina. The short king, the man who had a problem in our draft room, according to some of our analysts. Well, he finally stops quote unquote falling. He has talent, but of course that isn't what people are worried about. Sam, run us through this young man's physical so that people know what we're talking about.
Vivbot 2.0 is 7'7". No, he is 5'4", 145. This is very concerning for me. He's an all-around threat point guard from UNC. He did just win the national championship. He was caught last night in the draft green room with cocaine after not being selected within the top 10 picks. It has been reported. It's just reported. We're not sure if that's confirmed, but it has been reported. But anyway, Vivbot is very talented, but with his height, I mean, if you have Vivbot 5.4, 5'4", and he's going up against, let's say, JP3 or Doncic Antetokounmpo or Boris Lou Jr., who literally have 2 feet on him, it will be it'll be pretty rough. That's all I'll say.
What do you think, Mr. Hines? Do you think this is a solid move by the Denver Nuggets?
I think it's solid for two reasons. Well, luckily for Vivbot, the state of Colorado tends to be one of the more lax states when it comes to drug use. So he'll be okay going there. Hopefully, it can get his problem under control. But he did fall in a similar fashion as T-Rack Tilly did last year, and we saw how well T-Rack Tilly actually played when he started for the team, replacing Kenneth Hines, who left in free agency. Um, if Bot won't have that same chance to show he's worth this, he will likely start on the bench, assuming that the Nuggets are bringing back Ricardo Newman Jr. I'm not actually sure what his contract is right now, but I think if he was given a similar role as T-Rack, he would perform in a similar fashion. So I think they got a great player here, a great talent. Obviously, North Carolina is back in the national picture overall, just won the national championship. So I know he's talented. Hopefully he has a chance to show it while playing for Denver.
All right. Definitely an interesting look by Denver. We never questioned Viv Butt's talent. Definitely a very talented young man. But the look that most people want to see is this man going to be able to carry over in the NBA? The Kansas City Knights are now on the clock, and here comes their selection. With the 27th pick in the 2071 NBA Draft, the Kansas City Knights select Emmanuel Westbrook, point guard out of the University of Oregon. The Ducks get their first person in the draft after several seasons. And boy, it's a talented one. Definitely a guy who seemed to have fallen. I feel like Kansas City definitely made a proper selection here. But before we get into that, Sam, run us through this young man's physicals.
Emmanuel Westbrook is a 6'5", 211 offensive threat point guard from Oregon. This is definitely a steal. As you know, the Knights, all they do is just they get people and then they trade them, and then they get people and then they trade them. Emmanuel Westbrook will eventually be traded. Who knows? He might be their starting point guard. He might be their backup point guard. He might be their water boy. You never really know with Obiagu. Yeah, this is definitely one of the best players still available. Not much else to say other than that.
Yeah, really not much else to truly say in that aspect. What about you? What do you think, Heinz?
Yeah, they definitely benefited from Emmanuel's name, likely due to the connection to Oregon, dropping a little bit in the draft. This was a great pick for them, especially at the number 27 spot. Some people had him projected 10 picks higher than this. So they drafted what people may consider the best available player. But for his sake, you just have to hope that he won't become a victim of Kansas City's constant trading. Really, Kansas City at some point needs to sit down and be like, okay, let's build this foundation that we can build on. Let's strengthen the foundation that we're trying to build on so that, people are inclined to be like, hey, Kansas City has something going on right here. Let me join this, as opposed to, oh, Kansas City just traded away half their team. I don't really want to go here anymore. You need to have some consistency. You hope that they can talk about it, or you hope that they can come to that realization soon so that Kansas City can become a destination for players like in free agency that will look at it, as opposed to just being like, oh, Obiagu's crazy, he's traded half his team again before the season's already started.
Well, definitely an interesting view. But hey, it's definitely going to see how this whole draft ends up turning. I really feel like Emmanuel Westbrook, very talented man, can definitely turn out to be one of the more talented guys in the NBA if it all comes out properly. Now here's the Coyotes and their draft selection at 28. With the 28th pick of the 2071 NBA Draft, the Las Vegas Coyotes select Didi Louzada Jr., combo forward from NBL, Perth Wildcats. Oh man, an interesting selection indeed, in my opinion. Might be the great move, might be the correct move. I definitely enjoy this pick. I think it's a very quality one. What do you think, Sam? Run us through this young man's physicals.
Didi Louzada Jr. is a 6'8", 215, two-way, three-level scorer. He's a small forward / power forward from the Perth Wildcats. I could tell you that Shabazz has me blocked on Instagram, so he did not make this pick. Frank was the one who made this pick, along with the help of Justice Skay, or Jay, whatever. And they wanted the best small forward, the best non-guard available, and DD was definitely that guy. He can play defense, he can score, he can be a good piece off the bench for them at small forward or power forward. He could even play a little bit of shooting guard. Yeah, it's a solid pick. This is about where I thought he would go, maybe a little bit earlier, but this is about where I thought he would go.
I think this is definitely an interesting one. Oh man, I definitely think this is an interesting one. And I like Didi Louzada Jr. definitely did very well in NBL. What do you think, Heinz? Do you think NBL is starting to become a solid foundation for guys?
Yeah, I think all leagues are starting to get a little bit more recognition as they put on the success. This pick by Las Vegas is a little bit interesting. We all feel that their weak link is probably at the point guard position. They, I think, have Stephen Bradley as his name. He's probably like the least star level talent that they have on the team right now. I believe that they're looking to address that in free agency. As actually, we all know very coveted Bulls All-Star guard Isaiah Hall Jr. I think there's two or three Bulls that are actually free agents, like their top three scorers. But Isaiah Hall Jr. has linked the Coyotes as well as the Sonics and the Pittsburgh Predators as potential destinations for him in free agency. So they're going all out for him. And this pick was definitely just to try and boost the bench a little bit more. So it'll be interesting to see how free agency might have tied into this decision. But NBL as a whole is definitely starting to get the recognition that it deserves, as well as all the other leagues. And I hope that continues to grow as the draft goes on.
Definitely an interesting point of view there. I definitely think NBL is growing in talent. C-Rod, as we know, he always runs a very solid league. Now he can definitely have a solid pipeline to go directly into the NBA this time around. I really enjoy that. Before we continue on to the next pick, I do want to talk about the fact that free agency is coming up. There's a lot of dudes that have already been narrowing their names. Should they not? Who knows what's going to be going on there. Sam, you got any updates on free agency for us?
Like Hines just said, Isaiah Hall Jr. has narrowed down his list to, I believe, the Sonics, Coyotes, and Predators, if I got that right.
Yes.
Meaning some notable teams who Isaiah had been considering, like the defending champ Brooklyn Nets, his former team, the Chicago Bulls. Not really any notable teams other than that. The 76ers were also in the running, but they're not that notable. Yeah, the 76ers are out of the running. I think it could be interesting. Isaiah and ZZ would definitely be very, very interesting. That would be pairing two of the top 5 players in the league together, along with my leg. Looking at a team that could be very, very, very scary. The Sonics would be a very nice place for him as well, although we are seeing some stuff in the chat that Pez is potentially upset, saying that he's the Sonics point guard and is not very happy that Isaiah could be going. Um, the Predators would be interesting. I heard yesterday that Tyson Oaks would be the point guard. I assume that would change with Isaiah Hall Jr. there, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it goes.
I definitely think it's going to be interesting. Hines, you got anybody else that we have in free agency that we should keep an eye on?
Mostly all eyes have been on him. I do know that in reference back to the Coyotes real quick, who picked at pick 26, I do believe that Big Al, who was their starting center the last season or two, is testing free agency. Had addressed earlier, I knew a Pittsburgh player that was testing free agency in Little Pickle. But this class definitely probably isn't as deep as it was last year. But you can definitely expect to see some big names moving in just a few days.
Well, it's definitely something to look out for. And now we continue on with the NBA Draft. With the 29th pick in the 2071 NBA Draft, the Kansas City Knights select Devon Walker, the combo guard out of Mississippi State University. Definitely a good-looking pick, an interesting pick for Kansas City. I don't really know how to fully feel about it, but hey, it's business. It's the league. And definitely there's a couple concerns about him, not based off of his play, but based off of his size. Sam, run us through this young man's physicals.
Devin Walker, I'm gonna throw out a big subject to change here because it does say that Devin Walker is 6'6". I don't believe that that's correct, but that's what I have here. 200 pounds, all around two-way point guard / shooting guard from Mississippi State. This is a based on fit. This pick is an F. I'm pretty sure Obiagu only has players that are guards. But based on true talent, this pick is definitely an A plus. Devin could have gone top 10, and I wouldn't have even called it a reach. To get him at 29 is pretty impressive. It's definitely a steal. Yeah, I mean the fit is terrible, but it's the best player, and when you have nobody, I guess you just take the best players available.
Definitely an interesting way to look at it. I personally think it's a good way to see it in various different aspects. Heinz, what do you think about the Knights selection?
Yeah, I think this is similar to San Francisco selection that we had back. I think it was pick 22 or 23 of benefiting from a player falling, where you can say that you got a steal of the draft, not a steal of the draft, but a steal in the draft is not really what you needed. Like will be used as trade bait, as we all know. Kansas City loves to conduct trades. But this is a very talented player. If they do decide to keep him, I think he can be really good for their team. But they have to address, as Sam was saying, their like lack of size. They definitely need to look at some bigs, whether it be free agency or do all the trading of these many guards that they have. You just have to. They'll be able to construct a solid team going into the season opener.
Definitely. Interesting way to look at it. In my opinion, I think it's going to be quite an interesting point of view there. Solid pick by the Knights. And now we're just going to try to get through these picks as quickly as possible, as now it really isn't a huge deal. With the 30th pick of the 2071 NBA Draft, the Toronto Raptors select Zaire Wade Jr., the wing out of BYU. Now, let's just not really talk about this that much, but good pick, bad pick. What do you think, Sam?
Zaire Wade Jr. Probably not going to play that much. He is 6'6", 181, slashing playmaker, shooting guard, small forward from BYU. Not a reach, not a steal, just a pretty good pick. Not that much to say about it. He's probably not even going to play. Maybe the G League. That's one thing about this draft. I will talk a little bit longer because the G League, we haven't really talked about that yet. But now taking some late round picks, especially going into the second round, potentially sending those guys down to the G League to develop will be very interesting to see if teams do that. And I think Zaire would be a great player to play in the G League for the Raptors.
What do you think, Heinz?
Yeah, what Sam was alluding to, I think a lot of these later picks are going to end up going into the newly resurrected, as you might say, G League. I do think that he has the potential to play in the NBA, but I don't think he's ready just quite yet. BYU, overall as a school, they've begun to fall off a little bit. I think they had a national championship appearance just 2, maybe 3 seasons ago. Now, we haven't really heard too much from them. A lot of their team obviously has graduated. You see Zaire Wade Jr. here. But, he was a part of that almost national championship team. So that he has that talent. But I just don't know if he's quite ready for the big stage of the NBA right now.
Definitely an interesting point of view. I don't know how to fully feel about this. I don't know. I legitimately don't know. But hey, it's a solid pick. Amount of wings they got, they can probably groom him. It's solid for them, indeed, for the Toronto Raptors. For these last 6 picks, do we really have to do the little music? What do you guys think?
Up to you.
Yeah, I'm good if
I
we
can't
don't.
hear it. We can't hear it, but
Yeah, it's for everybody else at home.
Oh, yo, that's true, but I'm over here just like, hey, chat. Oh, well,
they like it.
They like the music. I don't got a problem with it. This is just more like it gets complicated switching through tabs. But hey, you know what? I'm doing it for the people. Here we go. With the 31st pick of the 2071 NBA Draft, the Utah Jazz select King Carter, shooting guard out of Kentucky. BBN Nation is on their feet. They're stoked that their man has just been drafted. What do you think about King Carter, the former 5-star prospect, Sam?
King Carter, EBN for life. Wait, let me find his stuff. Give me a second. King Carter, 6'6", 220, all around two-way, shooting guard from Kentucky. He's not going to play probably. I don't know. He's not a player owned by Yeo, meaning he's not going to play at all for the Jazz, most likely. he'll probably be traded in a sign and trade for like Anthony DeCula or somebody like that. Yeah.
Heinz, what do you think about the selection by BBN Nation?
Well, we never know what to expect with the Jazz as of late. They made some really good draft picks last season that almost got them into the playoffs this year, along with some morally questionable trades. But I mean, they're building a team that looks to try and contend in the West. This pick, not that King Carter isn't a talented player. This pick might not necessarily help that much. You probably these picks that we're about to see likely play a lot. If they do decide to use him, I think he's a talented guard that could pair well with any bench time. I don't see him playing anything more than maybe 7th or 8th man. But for as late of a pick as this is, pick 31, did get some good talent, so you can commend you for that draft selection.
Definitely an interesting point of view there. Utah Jazz. To get a guy late in the draft can definitely potentially be a steal. But I mean, we can't really write anybody off. This draft class is very deep after all. With the 32nd pick in the 2071 NBA Draft, the Miami Heat select Keon Lambert Jr., combo guard out of University of Southern California. Oh man, what do you guys think about this selection? Very solid combo guard. Do you think the Heat made a proper selection here?
6'7", 227, two-way slashing playmaker, point guard / shooting guard, USC. If Justice Graham decides to leave, you move Caden Tran to start, Keon Lambert Jr. off the bench. Other than that, maybe he goes to the G League. If Graham stays, maybe Lambert plays backup shooting guard or starts over whatever his name is, Redman. Probably not going to play that much, but definitely a good pick.
What do you think, Heinz, about this draft selection?
As I said a little bit earlier when Andrew Westbrook was selected, I think any player that USC is producing in this draft class, especially all seniors, all loyal players, definitely very talented individual. Won't play that much, but if he does get the chance, I think he would prove that he's better than the 32nd pick in the draft. But unluckily for him, we'll likely not see that, especially not immediately. But we can hope at some point in his career he'll be able to show off that talent.
That's definitely an interesting way to look. I like Keon Lambert Jr., talented guard. Out of UAA, he was good. In college, he was good. But in both, he was ranked relatively low. We'll see if in the Miami Heat he can develop properly. With the 33rd pick in the 2071 NBA Draft, the Memphis Grizzlies select Jasper Brennan, combo guard out of Boston College. I think it's a solid pick, decent point guard. Sam, what do you think?
Jasper Brennan. 6'1", 173, all-around threat, point guard, shooting guard, Boston College. Yeah, not a reach, not a steal. About where he was projected to go. He's probably not going to play. Yeah.
What do you think, Heinz, about this draft selection?
I think it's a good depth piece. The team actually doesn't have too many guards on their roster, which is good for him. He might actually see some playing time. Coming from Boston College, not necessarily a premier school, but he does have some talent. If he does play, which he likely will, but very small minutes, I think you'll see that he is a relatively good player. So I think it's an overall good pick by the Grizz.
Definitely an interesting selection there, but now I don't know what I just did there, but the Kings are up at 34. With the 34th pick of the 2071 NBA Draft, the Sacramento Kings select James Walker, combo guard out of Texas Tech. Another Walker off the board, solid player in college. Who knows? We'll see.
Sam, what do you think?
Say the name again. Oh,
James
James
Walker.
Walker. Got it. James Walker, 6'4", 198, offensive threat, point guard, shooting guard from Texas Tech. Not a bad pick. Walker gets his 17th player drafted in this class. He's probably not going to play for the Kings. Maybe a G League player.
What do you feel about this, Heinz?
I do think it's a solid pick. Definitely, as Sam was alluding to, future G League player. Um, yeah, at this point in the draft, you're not really expecting these people to get minutes, especially in a guard-heavy team. It's already constructed in Sacramento. But you hope that he can showcase his abilities in the G League.
Well, we'll see how he turns out in the G League, even if we do have a G League. Moving on to the penultimate draft selection. With the 35th pick of the 2071 NBA Draft, the Oklahoma City Thunder select Jonathan Bergeron, shooting guard out of Michigan. I like this pick. I really do. But really not much else to say. 7'2" shooting guard. That's definitely the only highlightable aspect about Jonathan Bergeron. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, you definitely mentioned it there. 7'2", 230, all-around two-way shooting guard from Michigan. This pick I'm a fan of. Anybody who's a guard-type player with size, I'm going to bring it up. JP3. Maybe he could be a glitchy type player. Not much else to say other than that. Probably a G League player, but this one actually could potentially make an impact at the NBA level.
I definitely think the same. What about you, Mr. Hines?
I do also agree with the both of you. His size definitely raises some eyebrows in a positive way. Definitely see him potentially playing, maybe being, well, starting off in the G League most definitely, but maybe being called up in a role similar to what Sam was saying, a JP3, 7-2 guard type role. Uh, and I mean, Michigan, we haven't really heard too much from them overall recently, but especially in the past, they did produce some really, really big talent. First one that comes to mind is Jalen Cross Jr., I believe. So that talent does come from this school. Might hope that maybe he gets utilized, especially given how tall he is. But at the same time, this is second to last pick of the first round, so we shouldn't expect too much.
Well, there really isn't much to say about these later picks as we head into the second round, but now the moment we've all been waiting for. With the final pick, pick 36, in the first round, the Denver Nuggets select Scooby Black Jr., combo guard out of Marquette. Oh man, NYL made. And for those of you who know, he definitely has to put in some work now if Scooby Black wants that Scooby snack, ladies and gentlemen. Definitely going to be an interesting selection. I've always rated Scooby Black Jr. Very talented, son of a basic legend. And we'll see how he can do. He had an amazing high school career. Did not pan out at all. Did not pan out at all in NCAA. Let's see if he can live back up to his standards and be the player we all thought and believe he could be in high school. I really rate this pick just because, yeah, Q gang. Sam, what do you think about this pick?
6'5", 202 pounds, two-way three-level scorer, shooting guard / point guard from Marquette. Yeah, not much to say. He's, as Fitz says in the chat, he's probably going to be a G League superstar. But I do want to take a second to highlight the Knights' previous draft picks, and I just want to say I think they were bad picks, and they're probably going to be traded in the future.
Interesting. And as the chat says, Q gang. Yeah, whatever. Man, we've been here for an hour and a half. My mind is fried. We're finally done with the first round. Heinz, any final thoughts on Scooby Black?
Amazing name. Or college career, sadly for him. But we will see him hopefully take over the G League next season.
All right, man. Well, thank you guys all so much for hopping on to this stream. This is officially the end of the NBA draft. At least the first round. Second round will be conducted by our good friend LJ. Definitely we'll see how that turns out. Coming soon in the next coming days. As always, it's been your boy Q, as always joined by Heinz and that draft analyst Sam F. Hope to see you guys probably for next year's draft. Have a nice night. Peace.